about it either.
They had the 2 adopted children, and there was a certain amount made of it. I think in the wake of the Angelina Jolies of this world and the Madonnas, it was hugely underplayed. You know, I can't even remember what their names are, which is quite telling. They're happily quite low-profile Hollywood children. Nothing else. If they've managed to do that, that would be nigh on a miracle.
Whilst Tom and Nicole's careers went from strength to strength individually following Eyes Wide Shut, with Nicole going on to shoot Moulin Rouge and Tom filming Mission Impossible 2, the film seemed to be the catalyst for the demise of their personal relationship. In February 2001, a press release was issued by Tom's publicist Pat Kingsley, stating that the couple were getting a divorce. The news seemed to come as a shock to Nicole, and divorce papers were served on her by Tom's lawyers just 48 hours later. Another shock for Nicole was Tom's claim that the couple had actually separated in December 2000, just days shy of their 10-year anniversary.
Tom Cruise's decision to divorce Nicole Kidman was, I think it was expected of him, but not for Nicole Kidman. She actually said in a court filing that it was a shock that this had actually taken place.
Tom Cruise divorced Nicole Kidman right before their 10-year anniversary. Under California law, that would have required him to give over a large chunk of his estate. I don't know if it's on the order of 50%, but it would have been a sizable chunk. So, of course, the timing of the divorce raised all sorts of speculation that he did it at that moment to save some cash.
She said it came as a shock to her when he came and said, I want to get a divorce, and she said, let's go to counseling. So this seemed to have come out of left field to her. She didn't really see this coming, if you can believe what she says in her divorce filing.
It is interesting timing. It does seem to have had perhaps a financial motivation. Now, at the time, there were many reports that Nicole Kidman was pregnant. She said afterwards in the press she had miscarried, and she said, you know, with utter certainty it was Tom's baby. She was adamant about that. There were other people who were suspicious because, you know, here comes the timing of this. She's pregnant, and he breaks up with her when she's pregnant. I mean, who does that? So there were a lot of questions about that breakup. The two clearly seem to have drifted apart. They did not spend a lot of time together their last year of their marriage.
It just seemed, as far as she was concerned, that everything was fine. You know, maybe this is Tom. Maybe Tom is absolutely Mr. Perfect right up to the end of the relationship. Maybe he's one of those incredible men where he doesn't say there's anything wrong. He acts perfectly. He's absolutely gorgeous to you, and then suddenly he's gone. Maybe he's like that. I don't know.
His marriages and relationships actually smack more of a business arrangement rather than true love. So that makes people doubt whether he is actually truly in love with the women that he's involved with.
At the same time, you know, they seem to have had a very equitable split. She didn't walk away with a huge chunk of his fortune, but at the same time she was doing just fine on her own. She is one of Hollywood's highest paid actresses. She certainly wasn't starving for cash. So, you know, whether or not he did it for financial reasons, only he knows, I guess.
Tom seemed to get over the divorce relatively quickly and was astute in recognizing the publicity value that a new romance could have for a star. He had met Spanish actress Penelope Cruz during the filming of Vanilla Sky in 2000, and many attributed her as being partly responsible for Tom and Nicole's breakup. Tom and Penelope didn't make their romance public, however, until he whisked her away on holiday to Fiji that July. The following day, a statement was issued confirming Cruise and Cruise were an item, and that they had been going on dates for some time.
Nicole Kidman to Penelope Cruz. Well, how do you make that up with a PR spin? Cruise and Cruise. I mean, it's almost unbelievable, I've got to tell you. Penelope Cruz is another kind of, you know, met on set kind of deal. And they were on Vanilla Sky together. And she had appeared in the original Spanish version of Vanilla Sky. And she was a big star in Spain. And she comes over to Hollywood, and Tom Cruise seems to be, on paper, the sort of person that can now get her as probably one of the few kind of Spanish actresses into mainstream Hollywood films. And it didn't really work for Penelope Cruz outside of Spain.
Penelope just didn't look like the girl for him, though. She seemed, with her body language, to be almost outspoken, a bit of a loose cannon. She's not the shy, retiring, girly type at all. I mean, both Nicole and Katie are both very good at, you know, if he kisses their hand, they'll giggle and things like that. I can't see Penelope being a giggler at all. And she just seemed a bit too, I don't know, forward and confident for Tom in a lot of ways.
Penelope's independence eventually seemed to be the catalyst for their split, and after 3 years they announced that they had parted ways. Despite Despite the leading ladies seen clinging to his side on the red carpet, Tom has never been much of a player and was rarely ever seen out of a long-term relationship. This, and his fierce determination to keep his private life under wraps, led to speculation that he was keeping something from us.
Tom Cruise has been dogged by rumors and innuendo of homosexuality throughout his career. Now, Tom has adamantly said that he is heterosexual and will sue anyone who says otherwise. But these rumors have dogged him, and I think that, he's very quick to point out the fact that he is in a loving, heterosexual marriage. I think he wants the public to know that. He wants the public to finally put to rest any lingering doubts or suspicions and embrace him as a heterosexual man.
His first wife, said that he was sort of a dud in the sack and wasn't interested in sex. And, I think that there's been some other, there's never been any substantive stories about it. It's always just speculation.
It was towards the end of Tom's marriage to Nicole that rumors about his sexuality first surfaced. In 1998, the Daily Express ran a story alleging that the actor was gay and that his marriage to Nicole was a sham. Tom immediately sued the newspaper and proceeded to threaten several other publications that had jumped on the bandwagon. Tom's crackdown on these potentially disastrous rumors did not seem to deter one man, however. In May 2001, gay porn star Chad Slater faced a $10 million legal suit from Tom after claims that he had allegedly told ActuStar magazine that he had engaged in an affair with Cruise.
There was a man in America who said he'd had an affair with Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise took him to court and sued him and won. And I suppose that lying man caused people to think that Tom might be bisexual, but the court said this was not the case.
Tom is a lot less litigious now than he used to be, and I think what he's realized is that sometimes suing can actually really backfire on a celebrity. Perfect example, when the gay porn wrestler Chad Slater, several years back, alleged in a French online publication that he'd had some kind of affair with Tom Cruise. First of all, no one would have seen that, certainly not in the English-speaking, world. And second of all, we never would have been able to report that because we couldn't have repeated that, because repeating a libel is still a libel, so we never would have said it. As soon as Tom Cruise sued, which was just a ridiculous thing to do, as soon as he sued, everyone could now report the story. At the time, I was working for NBC, and we led all of our news saying, Tom Cruise is suing gay porn wrestler Chad Slater for saying that they had sex. And all of a sudden, this story was out there. If he had just left it alone, it would have gone away, and no one would have been the wiser. But whether it was his ego, whether it was his need to control the situation, he went after this guy, bankrupted him, but he did himself a huge disservice in the process.
I don't know why he pursues it so much, and the more he pursues it, the more it becomes something, quite frankly. I personally, I'm 100% sure he's not gay. And I think most people are as well. And it seems to be him saying, I'm not, and you go, yeah, all right, okay, no, I'm really not. Okay, you're not. So why, you know what I mean? I think that's, in some ways, how it's kind of working kind of against him. The truth has never really been told, and that's not about his sexuality at all. It's about just Tom Cruise as a person. We've never got to know him, because he spends his life acting that scene and then walking into the general public acting another scene. But Hollywood and his PR people, there's no way, even if he was gay, that you would... it's massive damage. Massive damage.
It would have been incredibly damaging. There's a notable case in Hollywood when an actress called Anne Hesh made a film with Harrison Ford called, I think, 7 Nights or 7 Days. It was a love story. And just when the publicity of the film was coming out, it wasn't a bad film, she announced that she was a lesbian and she was living with Ellen DeGeneres. And the film sank without trace. So you cannot have a romantic leading person in Hollywood who suddenly comes out and says they're gay. So if you are gay, it's best, like Rock Hudson, to keep quiet about it.
Tom's determination to preserve his image as Hollywood's ultimate leading man has certainly paid off. From his appearance in Risky Business in 1983 to his role in Mission Impossible 3 in 2006, his earnings have risen from $75,000 to $75 million. But is he still worth it?